Ready.
Okay. I'd like to resume the May 8th, 2023 meeting of the Delaware County Board of Commissioners. We'll introduce the participants here. I'm Jeff Benton, President of the Board this year. To my left is Vice President, fellow Commissioner Gary Merrill. Eric Hostetler is our Deputy Administrator and Counsel, Chief Counsel. Commissioner Barb Lewis is not with us this afternoon. Our clerks, Jennifer Walraven and Sarah DeNova. So with that, next, I open the hearing.
Yes. We
Okay.
know the time.
Okay. It is 1:31, and the hearing, I'm declaring the hearing open. This is the 1:30 p.m. final hearing for the Norris Run Watershed Drainage Improvement Petition Project. There are eight potential project parts, which is much more complex than we usually see. But anyway, I will now go through the notes for this final hearing. Again, want to welcome everyone to the final hearing for the consideration of the Norris Run Drainage Improvement Project. There is a sign-in sheet circulating the room. We ask that you please sign the sheet to indicate your attendance. We'll review what's going to happen today. We'll hear a summary first of the final hearing report from the county engineer and the Soil and Water Conservation District, who will provide a presentation of the proposed project. This presentation may include additional maps, photographs to better illustrate what is being proposed. The presentation will also include a sample amortization of a construction assessment to illustrate what a 15-year repayment may look like, an explanation of maintenance assessments, and an illustration of what a percentage collection means. Following the presentation, there will be time for questions from the board. After those board questions, the board will hear from any interested owners that wish to testify. Those speaking for or against the petition must be either an owner, as defined in section 613101 of the Ohio Revised Code, or an attorney speaking on behalf of an owner. And that is important. We will hold to that rule because we've had some issues come up in the past. But again, you either have to be an owner or an attorney representing an owner. But before we do that, before we accept testimony for or against the project, the board will address any exceptions to the schedule of assessments or claims for compensation or damages owners have filed in this matter. And as I understand, we have two letters to address there. The board will then acknowledge receipt of any landowner written testimony before hearing live testimony. We'll first call all those wishing to testify in favor of the project. We will then call all those wishing to testify in opposition to the project. Before testifying, you'll be asked to take an oath. After all those wishing to testify for or against the project have been heard, there will be an opportunity for responsive or rebuttal testimony. The board will close the public hearing after all testimony and evidence has been presented. After listening to the testimony and the report of the engineer, the board will decide whether to find in favor of the improvement, affirm the previous order, confirm the assessments, and approve the payment schedule, or the board may dismiss the petition and set aside the previous order. The board must consider the following factors in making its decision: whether the proposed improvement is necessary, whether the proposed improvement will be conducive to the public welfare, and whether the cost of the proposed improvement will be less than the benefit the improvement provides. So the hearing is open. Those are the rules of engagement for this afternoon. Next order of business then is to address the two letters that we've received. One of them.
Yes, we have Mr. John A. Rodman and Susan A. Rodman, trustees, turned in a letter today. They would like it known that they are against the drainage petition. Okay. And then we also have a resolution to address an exception to assessments that we received, which I will go ahead and read. Resolution number 23-389. In the matter of the Delaware County Board of Commissioners acknowledging receipt of and acceptance for consideration in part and rejecting for consideration in part the exceptions to the assessment and compensation filed on behalf of Miradum Farms LLC and KAB Farms LAC for the Norris Run Watershed Drainage Improvement Project.
Second. Discussion. I don't know if our council might want to just review this resolution for us, just to clarify.
Yeah, this is a procedural step just to acknowledge receipt of the letter and the exception and to frame how it will be addressed at the hearing. It meets all the requirements as an exception to the schedule of assessments. However, it does not meet the requirements for a claim for damages. So the resolution reflects that, and at the time appropriate during the hearing, we can hear from the owner about the exception to the schedule of assessments.
Okay. So by voting on this, we're approving the exception.
For consideration.
For consideration. And
Correct.
disallowing the claim for damages.
Refusing to consider it, correct?
Yes, refusing to consider, yes. Okay, good clarification. Okay, further discussion? Jennifer?
Vote on motion 23-389. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
And Mrs. Lewis is absent for our hearing this afternoon. Okay, we'll hear next from the report review from the Soil and Water Conservation
Yep.
District.
Next up, Brett, you're gonna do the report?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brett Bacon, Deputy Administrator, Delaware Soil and Water Conservation District. We have a short presentation that highlights the project and gives some information. The Norris Run Drainage Improvement Project has been requested per ORC 6131. The petition specifically requests in Delaware County, Radnor and Troy Township within the Norris Run full watershed and generally following but not limited to the course and termini of the existing improvements. Additional laterals by name of Prue, Main 517, Hadley, Main 534 or 109, Price, Main 179, Shaw, Main 13, Lewis, Main 130, Miller 538, Clee 13, and Wilson, Main 87. Petition also asks to generally improve the drainage, both surface and subsurface, to a good and sufficient outlet by replacing, repairing, or altering the existing improvements as required and or creating new surface and subsurface drainage mains or laterals as requested by this petition. Project timeline. Petition was filed on December 8th, 2016 by Mark A. James and LaDonna D. James and others. March 6, 2017, the viewing was held, and May 18th, 2017, the first hearing was held, at which time the board instructed the county engineer and SWCD to proceed with the development of plans and reports. The Norris Run watershed, the full watershed is approximately 2,571 acres. It is 90% agricultural, 6% rural residential, 3% woods, and 1% road right-of-way. And the original petition was signed by representatives of 44 of the 178 parcels in the watershed, and you can see those parcels highlighted in blue. The project's been divided into several sections to better reflect the areas of work and costs associated. The main will consist of open channel reconstruction, new open channel construction, surface drain construction, subsurface drain tile replacement, construction of grade stabilization structures, logjam and debris removal, and seeding and mulching. The Prue number 517, sections 1 and 2, would be subsurface drain tile replacement, surface drain construction, construction of a blind inlet, and clearing and snagging. The Hadley number 109 will be subsurface drain tile replacement and surface drain construction. Price number 179, same, subsurface drain tile replacement and surface drain construction. The Lewis number 130, subsurface drain tile replacement, surface drain construction, clearing and snagging, and seeding and mulching. And the Wilson number 87, main and lateral, subsurface drain tile replacement, surface drain construction, construction of a grade stabilization structure, and seeding and mulching. We have some photos of the project area. This is the main near the intersection of Troy and Radnor roads, looking upstream at the existing head wall. We're facing north in this photo. This is the same location on the main, facing south toward Troy and Radnor roads, or towards Troy Road specifically. This is the main at the Miller Road Bridge crossing, looking upstream. The main at the Miller Road Bridge crossing, looking downstream. The Wilson number 87 from Radnor Road, looking upstream or to the north. Wilson number 87 looking downstream from Radnor Road. This is the Prue number 517 from North Section Line Road looking upstream or to the west. Hadley number 109 from North Section Line Road looking downstream to the east. You can see the area, the nature of the area is fairly the same across the watershed. Some representative pictures of items of construction. You'll recognize this picture from a few slides ago. This would be open channel, and we selected this picture because what is proposed to be constructed is very similar in nature to what is existing there now. Surface drain, this would be a farmed surface drain. A grass waterway, essentially a surface drain with vegetated cover. A concrete head wall grade stabilization structure. This would be proposed at the top end of the main. And a tile breather. Project cost estimate. We've broken it down by construction, administration, contingency, maintenance pay-in, and estimated damages. I'm just going to read the totals for each section of the project. The main, estimated at $315,134.57. Prue number 517, section 1, $367,638.72. Prue 517, section 2, $76,500.74. Hadley number 109, $192,244.28. Price number 179, $111,096.52. Lewis number 130, $113,656.67. Wilson number 87, Maine, $333,411.10. And Wilson number 87, Lateral, $54,796.59. For a total project estimate of all sections combined of $1,564,479.19. Notes. The Prue number 517 section 2 estimate includes $10,380 to be direct assessed to Marlboro Township and an equal amount to be direct assessed to Radnor Township for work directly benefiting the North Section Line Road right-of-way. The total remaining to be assessed to the watershed is $55,740.74. The Wilson number 87 main estimate includes $7,200 to be direct assessed to Delaware County for work directly benefiting the Radnor Road right-of-way. The total remaining to be assessed to the watershed is $326,211.10. Calculation of assessments. The revised code instructs the county engineer to calculate assessments to property owners based on the benefits received. The quote specifically says, lands that have been removed from their natural state by deforestation, cultivation, artificial drainage, urban development, or other man-made causes shall be considered as benefited by an improvement required to dispose of the accelerated flow of water from the uplands. Assessments are calculated using a formula that considers acres benefited, a land use factor, and percent use. These factors are combined to produce a parcel assessment factor. The parcel percentage share then is the parcel assessment factor divided by the sum of all assessment factors. And the parcel assessment is then determined by taking the percent share times the total estimated cost for each of the sections. Payments. Landowners have two options to pay their assessments. They can pay the full assessment up front within 30 days of the final hearing by June 7th, 2023, which also includes giving notice of intent by May 29th, 2023, or they can have the assessment placed on a property tax bill as a special assessment for a period of time to be determined by the commissioners. Having the assessment placed on property taxes would include interest and other fees if the project is bonded and an auditor-treasurer's 2% collection fee. We have a short amortization example. This example would assume no upfront payments and all sections of the project are approved. We have total estimated construction costs minus direct assessments equals $1,536,519.19. We'll use a sample assessment of $30,000, which would be a 2% share of a project. Assuming debt issuing fees of $8,000 and a 4% interest estimate, the total estimated cost with borrowing fees would be $1,605,979.96. 2% of this amount is $32,120. 2% of that for auditor treasurer collection fees would be $642, giving us a total assessment for the sample parcel of $32,762. I've presented to you both an 8-year repayment example as well as a 15-year repayment example, and you can see the difference in cost. At 8 years, the semi-annual payment would be $2,047.63, and for a 15-year repayment, it would be $1,092.07 per half. Bidding and construction. All approved projects are advertised for public bid, with the lowest and best bid to be awarded the contract. Bids may not be accepted in excess of the final hearing engineer's estimate, and the final schedule of assessments is reduced pro rata by the difference between the estimated cost and final cost. Upfront payments would receive a refund if the project ends up costing less. Drainage maintenance. ORC 6137 requires completed projects to be placed onto drainage maintenance. The purpose of maintenance is to keep the project operating at its original design capacity, and maintenance funds are collected as a special assessment, much like the construction assessment. Common maintenance activities include inspections, seeding, repairs, and erosion control. Maintenance assessments are determined based on the final schedule of construction assessments, and most of our projects average between 2.5% to 5% annually for the maintenance collection. The collection percentage can vary depending on the maintenance needs of the watershed, and drainage maintenance is perpetual. Going back to our amortization example, assuming our construction assessment of $32,762 times a 3% maintenance collection plus the 2% auditor treasurer's fees equals a $1,002.52 annual maintenance assessment, or $501.26 per half. You can see there, for the 8 years, the maintenance would continue in year 9 as only a maintenance assessment, and for the 15-year, that would begin in year 16. Cost benefit. Benefits of drainage improvements exist for both agricultural and residential parcels. The benefit to agricultural parcels is realized by the increased yield as a result of good drainage. Estimated yield increases given the soils in the area would average 46 bushels per acre for corn and 14 bushels per acre for soybeans, given the appropriate drainage improvements are in place. Cost-benefit analysis for the PRU number 517, section 1. And I included 2 cost-benefit analyses in the presentation. These would be the 2 most expensive sections of the project. The rest of them are included in the final hearing report that everybody has. For the PRU number 517, section 1, assuming an average crop price using USDA averages from 2017 to 2021 of $4.28 per bushel for corn and $10.35 per bushel for soybeans. There are 296 acres of land in the watershed that are currently agricultural. Corn at 46 bushels per acre increase times the average price times 296 acres would be $58,276.48 benefit. And for soybeans, the same, with 14 bushels per acre increase times $10.35 times 296 acres would be $42,890.40. Putting this into an average, the average annual benefit would be $50,583.44. Applying the same cost-benefit analysis to the Wilson number 87 main, we have a average annual benefit for corn of $101,786.96. For soybeans, $74,913.30, with an average annual benefit for the watershed of $88,350.13. Benefits to residential parcels focus on quality of life, neighborhood perception, and home site sewage treatment systems. A failed home site sewage treatment system can cost between $15,000 to $25,000 to repair or replace. New developments on average spend about $8,700 per lot on providing adequate drainage outlets. With 42 residential parcels in the watershed, this would equal $365,400 benefit on average. Project sections. The main, Lewis number 130 and Wilson number 87 main can be completed independently of any other part of the project. The PRU number 517, section 1 and 2, Hadley number 109, and Price number 179 require approval of the main. PRU section 2 requires approval of section 1. The Wilson number 87 lateral requires approval of the Wilson main. And I've broken this down into a decision matrix table. Basically, if you read this from left to right, approval of one section would require approval of all the sections in the road that are marked yes. And I can give an example here. So PRU number 517, section 2 would require approval of the main, PRU number 517, section 1, and obviously PRU number 517, section 2. If the decision is to deny the project, it is recommended to distribute costs incurred to this point to the landowners in the same ratio as determined by the final schedule of assessments. Those estimated costs to date are $15,000. Engineer's recommendation. Based on all of the information gathered and generated, I believe this project as proposed is technically feasible and would serve as an adequate outlet for the drainage needs of the watershed. Furthermore, the parcel assessments for this project are within the range of assessments that can be expected for a project of this scope. The testimony brought to the Board of the Commissioners by the landowners as to whether the benefits of this project exceed the costs should be given significant consideration in the decision to move forward with this project.
Okay. Thank you, Brett. I have several questions. I don't know if Commissioner Merrill. Okay. Brett, in your first hearing report, the acreage was 3,258 acres, and this is 2,571 acres. Why the decline?
We originally looked at extending the project further to the south downstream, and as part of our survey and engineering design, decided that was not necessary to meet the intent of the petition. So a large portion of the southern part of the watershed was cut out of the project.
Okay. In the first hearing report, there was also an A and a B alternative.
Yes,
So-
anticipated that question.
Yeah.
Yes, if you'll recall at the first hearing, we were proposing two different possibilities for the main portion of the project. One would have been open ditch only extending upstream, and then the other was a surface drain and tile option, keeping the open ditch in its current location. Because of various factors, we did some soils investigation in that area, and soils were really not conducive to doing a couple of the options, and then depth. As we surveyed the project, by the time we provided a surface drain outlet for the upper reaches of the watershed, we basically had a surface drain that was 6 to 7 feet deep at the bottom end, which is essentially an open ditch anyway. So we really settled in on what we feel like is the only viable option to meet the intent of the petition.
Which is open ditch?
It's really a combination, open ditch extending up a part of the watershed, and then really where we transition into the soil material that was not conducive to open ditch construction. It got really rocky on us. We changed to a surface drain and tile at that point.
Okay.
I have a quick question. The area you're excluding from the petition now that wasn't there initially, were there any petitioners in that area?
No, there were not.
The cost of the first hearing, the cost estimate of the first hearing was a little over $1 million, $1,031,000. With the one option, the alternative B, I think it was $825,000. What would, and this is a smaller acreage, what would cause the increase from a little over $1 million to $1.5 million?
Two answers to that. One, tile sizes ended up needing to be bigger than what we anticipated. And that's part of the problem at a first hearing. You haven't done your survey, you don't know what grades are available. You haven't even really gone out and investigated what's there yet. So we ended up with tile sizes that were significantly larger for longer reaches than what we anticipated needing to be. And then just the inflation that we've seen over the last 2 to 3 years as I don't want to completely blame it on COVID, but we've seen prices dramatically increase across the board with all of our items of work since COVID happened.
Okay. I figured the construction costs increased across the board.
And I will say, we have based this estimate on the annual unit price contract that we received for our drainage maintenance program, and then also our past bid projects over the last year or so. We based the estimate on those numbers.
Notice you've included damages of $500 an acre.
Yes.
In some circumstances. Can you explain that?
So normally on our projects, they're of a scope where we feel like we can get into farm ground after crops have been harvested in the fall, get the project constructed so that we're not disrupting planting come spring. For this project, it is such a large project and so big in scope that it's just, it's really inconceivable that we would be able to construct this in one off-season. It's just a project that we've not dealt with as far as scope before. So we have estimated basically to rent the construction corridor from the farm fields for, $500 per acre is what we're proposing.
Okay, and that's because it would damage crops or not
Basically
allow-
taking an area out of the field for planting
Okay.
for a season, yes.
Okay. In my mind, this hinges on yields, since it's 90% agricultural land. Are those yields current? I know the yield estimate, the
Yeah.
improvement are yield estimates
So
over a period of time.
I'll answer that by saying the research on the yield increases is current. I think it's incumbent upon the landowners to either, I'll say, confirm or refute those numbers. That we can look at a 30,000-foot view. The operators of the ground know what they're gaining or losing, on an average basis. So,
Okay.
Who do we use as our research?
Ohio State University.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Anything right now?
Eric, anything else? Okay. All right, at this point, we now open it up for testimony. Thank you, Brett, for the presentation and all the research. Okay, we've acknowledged the letters that we received. Now we'll call all those wishing to testify. Again, you don't have to testify. You can be here without testifying either way. But anyone who wants to testify in favor of the project, again, I will swear you in if you do. Come on up. Yep.
I apologize for my appearance, came out of the field.
All
My name's
right.
Mark James, I'm the one that petitioned this, and from James Farms LLC. Part of the reason why this
Yep,
petition was
I need
made.
to swear you in.
Oh, sorry.
And then if you could identify at least one of your parcels, that way we can understand what you're talking about. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. You can proceed.
Oh,
We
thank
have a map with the parcel numbers. That helps us get oriented, if you would, please.
My one parcel is up, as you look at the Norris Run drainage map, it's up towards the top, 8, 9, and number 11 on the northern edge.
Okay?
The reason I was bringing this petition before the commissioners and through the Soil and Water District was because of the main breaking down. It's basically three large tile. And with those breaking down, the oldness of the tile, they are slowly starting to lose their volume that they were first created to handle. And if you're familiar with drainage tile, these have been in for, I would assume, over 100 years, if not more. And being clay tile, they're starting to quarter and break down and collapse. And each time that is done, it allows dirt to fill into those tile, and it reduces the volume and the capacity of those. Also with my ground up to the north, most of it has been systematically tiled, which is putting even that much more pressure on these old tile line. And so with reduction of the capacity, it's putting more pressure on these tile, which in turn are starting to cause what we call blowouts along the mains. And therefore, for landowners down along this main, it just requires a lot more work each year because we have more tile breaking down and blowing out because of the volume of water trying to go through these. And understanding that, that's why we brought this forth, was to, one, put it where the county would keep updating it, make sure the tile line was running at the volume it should, and just honestly replace and repair those that are breaking down now. And I agree with the figures that were given as far as increasing the income for the farmers. I look at it as also, if we let this continue to go as it is, not only are we not going to be able to increase, we're actually going to have it start having a decrease in the value of that farm ground, because anytime we get a big rain, that volume of water is slowly being decreased because the main's breaking down. So we're trying to not only increase it, but we're trying to bring it back up to the capacity that it originally was when it was put in 100 years ago.
Okay. Further comments?
That should be
Okay.
it.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. Additional folks who want to speak in favor?
Good afternoon.
You can state your name and address and parcel number or lot number.
Tim Harsh, 4721 State Route 203 Radnor. And it would be parcel on the Lewis 130. That would be,
There's a lot of parcels there.
69, yes, 69.
59?
I'm
69?
69?
69, correct.
Okay. All right, Tim, let me swear you in, if you would, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, proceed.
We are, my brother and I farm in this area and in the Radnor area as well. We are in favor of this project. The figures that Brett gave, I'm guessing for overall, we would agree with those decreases in yields. Our parcel in particular has seen more severe yield losses than that in this past year, and I realized last year was extremely wet spring and then a dry summer, but we experienced 25 bushel per acre yield loss on that farm. As to ground that was close to that was getting, and this was in the Radnor area, that was well tiled. And so on a 95 acre field, that actually added up to around $27,000 loss of income on that parcel. So it definitely does make a difference. We have a tile that goes through a woods that on this Lewis that they will replace, and it is currently plugged and it is not on maintenance. So it definitely needs to happen. And we appreciate your time and your assistance on getting this project pushed through.
Good,
Thank you.
thank you.
I do have a question.
Yes.
You said that your yield results have been less specific to your area. You think it's a one-time thing, or you think it's,
I believe on that parcel, it is over, I think it's just, a lot of that is due to that main that's going through woods and the water just cannot get away. No, we've seen yield losses, lower yields on that, and that's good ground. We have an awful lot of drowned outs area.
so the losses are due to
we
the
can't-
current situation?
Can't get the crop
Not
in when we
changing the climate.
like, yeah, just.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, additional comments or additional? All right. Welcome.
Welcome. My name is Brett Davis. I'm a partner in DAV Farms. My wife and I own several pieces of property in this watershed. In fact, the one that you see behind the racetrack there on Troy Road, where the open ditch will be opened and go through my farm there. I'd like to speak on that, please.
Okay, do you have a parcel number for us?
Parcel number?
Brett,
107.
107?
Thank you.
Okay. Let me swear you in there, Brett.
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, you can proceed.
Yes. Longtime farmer in this area, born and raised here. Seen problems with this area. We farm up and down Troy Road there, own several pieces of property up and down and farm a lot of those properties that we rent from others. Our trouble is not just the subsurface water, because we're talking about the dollars here for the larger tile that have to go in and be actually upgraded from what they were done, 90, 100 years ago. But you understand with clay tile, it's got a time period that it can't last anymore. And we spent a lot of time and money working on some of those tile that come through my farm. There's in fact 3 mains that come together that would go through, that they would open them up into the open ditch. We have sub-mains that we had put in several years ago on that farm, that particular farm, and our trouble is we can't get the water away from it. It's not just, if you know the lay of the land, it's fairly flat. It's mostly Puamo soils, which are a 0 to 1% grade. And so to get that water away, not just through the subsurface, through tile, it's also the surface water. And really, that's the most important thing in today's weather events. We see a lot of 2 and 3 and 4 inch rains. And those are, according to climate change or whatever you want to believe, but they are happening. And just as the prior people testified, it definitely affects our yields and our ability to upgrade our ground. It's one thing that we were brought onto this earth, and as farmers, we try to leave it better than what we got into it. And that would help make our ground more worthy and better production. We talked to, as Mr. Bacon had talked about the yield increases, and I can verify that directly because I had a piece of property just south of that we upgraded tile into it on our own expense and completely systematically tiled it. And it went from about a 55 bushel yield average to where I had 80 bushel 2 years ago in it, in soybeans. Wheat, we've had 110 bushel wheat on that farm, and corn yields as high as 207, which we weren't able to attain before. And part of that was subsurface and surface water. And that is a rolling farm, which was part of this area also. But from there north, it's surface water is what our trouble is. And as you know, here in Delaware County, we see a lot of growth. And I've seen a lot of farms within 2 miles of our farm that have grown into housing developments. And some of those housing developments, they look good when they purchase it, when the ground's dry, but we get one of those rains and there's water standing in their yards and their basements and things like that. And this would help alleviate those problems. So I've lived here for 63 years. I've seen the advancements in development and things that's gone on. And I think this would be a great improvement for the ground from here on, not just as agricultural ground, but also as we look forward to developments that come into our county because of the growth here in the county. As Mr. Bacon also talked about the yield, but he was taking a average of excuse me, what was the average for the 46 per corn? No, what's the price? It was over what period? 8 weeks. Okay. So the price back then, I believe, if I remember, was $4.56 for corn, and you can look back in your, but as you know today, our inputs are higher, and so right now our outputs are higher. We've received, you can sell corn for next year for $6. You can sell beans for $13.
Yeah.
And so you look at also you take the price in consideration to the increase in yield, it'd be a lot higher than what was presented to you also.
At current prices?
Yes.
Which do fluctuate?
Reflects what we're going through in this day. Because we all know that just as the cost of this project went up by $500,000, which sounds atrocious, but you look at when we buy tile to put tile in, And then it's doubled in the last 5 years. When we buy tile, it used to be 23 cents, and now you're 42, I think was the last we bought. So, you know, I understand that the construction costs go up, but, and I understand that there are people who have drained their fields and are using another outlet for that. That's fine and great. I mean, I wish I had that opportunity, but this gives me the opportunity to drain my farm. And also, most important thing is to get rid of the surface water. Because we can put all the tile in the world, but if we can't get rid of that surface water because of the rain events that we've had in the past few years, and I think going forward also, that's been the biggest detriment to our ability to raise crops on this agricultural use ground.
Okay. Good. Questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. Additional folks want to speak in favor? Welcome, Mr. Laner. If you could introduce yourself and your address, and we'll locate one of your parcels.
Great. Earl Laner, 79 Radnor Road, Delaware.
Okay. And
Parcel?
a parcel number, Brett, that would be one of the bigger ones, maybe? I know you got multiple
That
parcels.
side of Miller Road, where you saw the picture, to the outlet side. And 44, 30, 35. Also, the Wilson Ditch goes through my, I guess, pasture and front yard. Like to talk about the Wilson Ditch first.
Okay, let me swear you in.
I'm sorry.
Earl? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, proceed.
Thank you. My family and I have farmed this ground for a long time, and the Wilson Ditch especially, on the parcel that is tillable land, tillable farm ground, we'll find a hole, let's say, 2 by 2, a blowhole. We get the backhoe out, get a section of tile, start digging. In one instance, we spent over 60, had to go 60 feet to find a good tile of the clay to attach onto, of 24-inch tile. That, you know, not only did it take us 2 days to do that, it was a great expense at our expense. That's the hazard you have working with the old clay tile, so that it has outlived its usefulness. Also, farther down on that same parcel that's pasture, we had a blowhole that we didn't know, and all of a sudden we have a heifer missing, and she's down in there, and she passed away because she fell down this hole about 7 years ago. You know, we're not making any more farm ground. The good Lord's done a good job for us. We've been blessed with good tillable ground around here, and we need to be more productive with the price of farm ground. And all our inputs, this is a small price to pay. I realize it's a large price to pay, but however, it will increase our yields, it'll increase our productivity, and that's exactly what we need today to stay in business.
Okay.
So I'm in favor of this project, and I hope for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Additional testimony in favor? All right. If you could, again, we're recording everything, so if you could
Good
state your
afternoon.
name, address, and give us a parcel
My
number.
name is Tom Dubanovich. Address is 5878 Headley Road, Radnor, Ohio. Parcel numbers 115 through 119, 124 through 130.
Okay. Let me swear you in. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Proceed.
In brief, I'd like to speak in favor of this project. I would love to see it move forward. My only questions are in regard to the cost-benefit analysis and the yields And we can say, take corn, for example, of a benefit of approximately 46 bushel per acre based on the Ohio State University research study, which was comparing non-well-tiled fields to well-tiled fields. I'm in a unique position in that our farm is at the top head of the watershed here. And if you look at your map, you'll see Peel Road just at the upper left corner. If you go just to the north of that and west of that, we also have farm acreage up there. Incredibly well-tiled farm compared to where we're at and farming. Last year on our corn crop, there was a 28 bushel differential between the two. And so we definitely could benefit from the tile. I don't know that we'll actually see a full 46 acre bushel benefit, but definitely a benefit. If that is the case, if it's going to be closer to 30 in the 30 to 35 bushel per acre range, it'll just take a whole lot longer for that benefit to be realized to pay off for the cost of the project. My request, and I don't know if it's within this commission's ability, the projected payback or bonding to the parcel owners was based on a 15-year schedule. If that schedule could be made to 20 years, it would actually lessen the per year cost and kind of balance out to the payback, the actual payback schedule of what we project in benefits.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where that came from.
I think the Ohio Revised Code addresses that, and we're not allowed to.
The maximum is 15 years.
The maximum, and is that like
Under revised code.
ORC? Okay.
Does that affect how you view it, being 15 rather than 20?
Personally, it really does, to be honest with you. It's a great question. At that rate, I would love to see the mains and the Wilson mains move forward promptly, and then maybe hold off and see how that affects everybody else who can tie into those mains. It may relieve some of it and balance out the cost effectiveness of the overall project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Additional folks who want to speak in favor? Welcome.
Matt Yarnell, 5110 Troy Road. And I'm just acquired the 6 acres at parcel 44.
Number 44, okay. Let me swear you in. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, you can proceed.
I just would like to say I am in favor of the project. I help operate the farm with my father-in-law, Earl. And I just think it would be beneficial to everybody if we can get rid of, like everybody says, the surface water and fix some of these older tile issues. And like people have said, they're not making new ground, so I think we need to do what we can to improve what we have, because in Delaware County, farm ground is getting to be a limited resource, it seems like. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, additional folks who want to speak in favor of the petition? All right, last call. Anybody who wants to speak in favor of the petition? Okay, seeing no one else, we will move to those who would like to speak in opposition to the petition. Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is David Watkins. I'm here with Kevin Dunn with the Plank Law Firm, and I represent Myrmidon Farms and KAB Farms LLC, owners of ID parcels 1, 2, 5, 6, 12, 14, 22, 23, 25, 33, and 34. Brian Bino is available through Zoom, I believe. Okay, so he's here also.
Okay.
And I may refer to the property at issue as my client's property or Brian Bino's property.
Yeah, that's fine. Let me swear you in. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Proceed.
My first I was going to ask questions of the county engineer. Now, is the county engineer,
There is a representative from the engineer's office here, deputy engineer, as well as Doug, I don't know.
Direct the questions to us.
Yeah.
Then we will.
We'll bring him up if we need to.
well, again, I think I have the right to directly address the county
Address them to
engineer.
us, and we will then
Sure.
take care of that.
Sure, okay. My question was going to be regarding to his engineering degree. Where did you get your engineering degree? What year did you get that engineering degree?
Who are you directing your question to? The county engineer, Chris
The county-
Bosman?
The county engineer, yeah.
He's not present.
Okay, so I think the statute provides that the county engineer is supposed to give the opinion and supposed to do the work.
Submitted a written report.
He's an elected. I've seen the written report, but I think I have the right to cross-examine him on the report.
Rules of evidence do not apply to this proceeding.
I understand that, but I've done this before, and I believe that you have the right to talk to the engineer.
He submitted his written report, and there's somebody here to answer his questions. I don't believe that your question is pertinent.
Okay, who will answer the questions for the county engineer?
Chief Deputy Engineer is here if he wants to address questions about the report.
I see, okay. So from where did the county engineer receive his engineering degree? Or where did you receive your engineering degree?
Good afternoon. Rob Riley, Chief Deputy Engineer with the Delaware County Engineer's Office. I'm a graduate of...
Commissioner Benton, you can swear him in as well.
Yes.
Oh, I need, okay. All right, Rob, do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, proceed.
To answer your question, sir, I'm a graduate of Ohio Northern University, year 2000. I'm also a registered professional engineer and professional surveyor in Ohio. Chris Bosman, County Engineer, believe he is a graduate of 1981 or 1982, also from Ohio Northern University. He is also a registered engineer and surveyor in the state.
Do you have any,
Need to get up by the microphone, sir.
Sure, I'm sorry. Did you have any responsibilities related to this project in terms of reports?
I did not prepare the report. Our office works in coordination with the Delaware Soil and Water Conservation District.
And so is it fair to say that the Delaware County Engineer's Office has delegated the responsibility for the reports to the Soil and Water Conference?
I would characterize it as this: the Delaware County Engineer's Office has contracted with the Soil and Water District to assist in preparation of the report, but not the responsibility. Ultimately, we believe the responsibility for the content of the report is that of the county engineer.
Do you know if the county engineer had any input into the actual report?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to make an objection. I know you're saying the rules of evidence don't, but I'm going to put on the record that I think I have the right to talk directly to the engineer. But I think maybe I can ask Mr. Bacon some questions additionally, if that's okay.
Eric, is there any?
That's up to you. You are the tribunal, so
Okay.
that's up to you.
You can ask questions, related questions.
Sure, sure. Mr. Bacon, what input did you have into this project and into this report, these reports?
Should he be sworn in since,
If he's answering questions from a property owner, he should be sworn in, yes.
Okay, let me swear you in there, Brett. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. Proceed.
Myself and my team at our office prepared the plans and reports, and we submit them to the county engineer for their approval.
Okay.
And what particular input did you have? Will you say that you're the lead on this project?
I'm not sure what you're asking. The projects are a collaborative effort. We all work together to prepare the plans and reports.
Do you have an agriculture degree?
My degree is in sustainable resource management. I graduated from Ohio State in 1998.
Do you have any education or experience related to calculation of crop yields?
Yes, I've worked for Soil and Water for over 20 years.
And when you say that, what kind of experience do you have by working with soil?
I've been working on these projects for over 20 years.
But, I mean, specifically crop yield analysis.
Yes, we utilize research from the Ohio State University in completing our reports.
Bear with me for a minute. Before I get to that. Now, the petition in this case was just 44 of the 100, the owners of 44 of the 178 parcels affected by the project, correct?
That's correct.
And are you aware of any of the duties that the engineer has in the Ohio revised code that's associated with the single ditch, single county drainage improvement? Are you aware of those duties and responsibilities?
Yes, I'm aware of the Ohio Revised Code.
How about specifically the duties that the engineer has in this type of case?
I don't think that's mine to answer.
Mr. Watkins, could you go closer to the microphone when you're speaking? I don't think it's picking you up.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. So I guess the question is, are you aware of the duties related to the single county drainage improvements set forth in the Ohio Revised Code for the engineer?
I'm not sure how to answer that. Yes, I've read the Ohio Revised Code. I know we all have roles to fill, and we fill our role, and the county engineer fulfills his role.
And what is your role, or the Delaware Soil and Water Conservation District's role in the Norris Run Drainage Improvement Project?
To assist the county engineer in the preparation of the plans, schedules, and reports and assessments.
Did anyone commission a survey of all the properties affected by the improvements in the project?
No.
So how do you know exactly what land is included in the project?
We use an automated tool to delineate the watershed using LiDAR data from the state of Ohio and a pretty sophisticated ArcGIS program. And then we field verify the watershed where it's necessary.
Was there any kind of drainage study performed?
We did a complete survey of the project area as far as the center lines.
Was there any weather study performed?
No.
Tell me how this project affects my client's property. And those are the 1, 2, 5, 6, 12, 14, 22, 23, 25, 33, and 34.
Surface drainage from those properties exits those property and enters the proposed improvement. Therefore, according to the revised code, that property is subject to an assessment for construction and maintenance of the project.
Say, much of my client's property drains well to system tiling. Did you take this tiling into consideration when calculating your opinion of the value of the project to his property?
No, the watershed is based on surface drainage, as are all of our projects.
Did you prepare the project construction cost estimate?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Has the project been bid yet?
No, the project will not be bid until after the project is approved by the county commissioners.
Mr. Watkins, could you move your testimony along? Again, we're seeking testimony in opposition, and so far you're asking a lot of questions about the process. If you could.
Well, I mean, I think, with all due respect, I'm protecting the record for appeal if need be. And so if,
Yeah.
I think these questions need to be answered and be in the record so if we do appeal, the court going forward will have a record. I'm protecting my client's rights.
Okay. Did you estimate
the damages to the properties in the project?
Yes, my team and I did.
Okay. Pursuant to law, a landowner is entitled to be compensated for damages to their property resulting from a public project, correct?
I can't answer that.
Okay.
I know the revised code 6131 spells out how estimated and scheduled damages and claims for damages are handled. Eric, is this considered a public project?
Mr. Watkins, your question is, I believe, asking him to make a legal judgment or a legal opinion. I'm not sure he is able to do that, so I don't represent him, but I think we can just move on.
I understand. Do you know if the law requires my clients to receive fair compensation?
I don't know.
And do you know if there have been no independent appraisals of my client's property in this case, correct?
No.
You prepared the list of assessments for the project, correct?
Yes, I did.
The law states that an assessment for benefits to the general public because the project is conducive to the public welfare shall be paid by the public and shall be assessed against the county payable from the general fund. What is the value of the benefit received by Delaware County as a result?
We have prepared an assessment for the respective road rights of way. That is the public benefit.
Okay, and you presented those today?
That is in the scheduled assessments that was submitted to the commissioners.
And how did you calculate that amount?
The same method that we use to calculate the rest of the assessments, the same formula.
Same formula? The law states that an assessment found to benefit state roads or highways shall be assessed against the state payable from motor vehicle revenues. What is the value of the benefit received by the state of Ohio for the project?
Zero. There are no state roads in this watershed.
Okay. The law states that an assessment found to benefit a political subdivision of the state shall be assessed against the political subdivision and shall be paid out of the political subdivision's funds. How did you find that there was an amount that was due from the political subdivisions in the area?
Yes. Delaware County, Radnor Township, Marlboro Township, and Troy Township all have schedules of assessments for this
Okay,
project.
those are- For this project, what was transmitted to the Director of Natural Resources, the Director of Transportation, and the Board of Directors of any conservancy district?
We submitted the project to the Director of the Ohio Department of Natural Resources for their review. The other two do not have a stake in the project, therefore there was nothing submitted to them.
Okay, did you get any feedback from any of them?
Yes, we received an approval letter back from the Department of Natural Resources.
And is that in the record of this case?
Yes.
Okay. In the final hearing report of Norris Run that you and the engineer prepared, you state assessments for the property within the watershed are calculated based on the benefits derived. In the final report and the Norris Run final hearing presentation that we received, you just did here, assessments are justified based on the claim that the project will result in corn yield increases of 46 bushels per acre and soybean yield increases of 14 bushels per acre. Is that correct?
That's correct. That is a general cost benefit analysis for the watershed.
And in the first hearing report, you cite a publication by the Ohio State University Extension titled Returns to Farm Drainage. You believe this publication supports your crop yield increase, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if that's in the record of this case or not, but
I believe it was read into the record on the first hearing.
on the first hearing?
The actual report was not. We just reference it.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know the procedure for.
You can provide a document to the clerk and she'll mark it as an exhibit and
Okay,
put it in the
sure.
file.
And can I approach? I have some more questions about it. What's been marked as, I don't know what's been marked as. here.
Exhibit BB.
Exhibit BB. Is this the report that you were just, the returns to farm drainage publication that you are speaking about?
I don't know, I haven't had a chance to look at this.
Would you look at that, please?
It looks like it is.
And in this report, it says agricultural drainage reduces the year-to-year variability of crop yields compared to having undrained cropland. And that's derived from 1962 to 1980 data. Now, my client's land is not undrained cropland, correct?
I can't answer that. That's up to your client to answer.
So you don't know whether it's drained or not?
I can't answer that. I can't answer his land.
Okay. The petition in this case states that the basis of the petition is to generally improve the drainage, both subsurface and surface, to a good and sufficient outlet by replacing, repairing, or altering the existing improvements as required. So the purpose of this project is to improve existing drainage, correct?
Correct.
You don't have any idea what the crop yields are associated with my client's property, correct?
It's up to each individual landowner to determine their crop yields.
And sitting here now, you don't know the specific effect the project will have on my client's crop yields, correct?
It's up to each individual landowner to determine the project's effects.
That means you don't have an idea of what the effect would be, correct?
I'm not answering the question.
I would ask you to just say yes or no, if you know that there's any specific effect.
I don't know of any specific effect.
That's fine. Thank you, and then Mr. Dunn is going to have my client testify, Mr.
Okay.
Benow. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, if you could, again, we're recording, so if you could identify yourself and,
My name is Kevin Dunn with Plank Law Firm. I'll be asking questions of Brian Benal. Brian,
do I
can you
need
hear
to
us?
swear?
The witness needs to be sworn in.
Okay.
The owner needs to be sworn in.
Okay.
I think Mr. Dunn is just going to assist him with presenting his testimony. Is that right?
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. That's fine.
Okay. If you could, just, again, we're recording, if you could state your name and address for the record, and then I'll swear you in.
Okay, can you see me okay?
Yep,
Clear?
yep,
Yep, okay. My name is Brian Vino. My address is 5314 Bellers, Houston, Texas. I own parcels 1, 2, 5, 6, 12, 14, 22, 23, 25, 33, and 34.
okay. Let me administer the oath, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, you can proceed.
Mr. Benal, is your property primarily agricultural farmland?
Yes.
And what is your profession by trade?
I'm a mechanical engineer and got 35 years of experience in manufacturing, steel manufacturing, and design for downhole tooling, drill pipe, and road boring stems for underground boring.
Okay. And are your parcels all affected by the proposed ditch improvement in the same way?
No.
Can you explain that?
Some of the parcels I've already systematically tiled and drained out of the watershed. Some of the parcels are not addressed by the improvements that have been offered up, and then some of them are.
Okay, so some of your parcels presently have adequate drainage?
Yes, some of my parcels are already drained.
Now, do some of your parcels not utilize the Norris Run main drainage system?
That is correct.
And which parcels are those?
Parcels 1, parcels 2, parcels 23, and parcels 25. Those parcels have been systematically tiled and drained north to the Carter Run ditch back in 2016.
Okay, and I have a map here that you prepared with some blue lines on it. It's marked as Figure 4. I was going to enter in the exhibit. Do you have that with you?
Yes, I do.
And can you explain what these blue lines represent?
Yeah, so that's just the general drainage direction of all the tile that's been put into those fields and the direction that they're headed.
Okay.
None of those parcels currently can drain into the Norris Run mains or any of that front end section there.
Okay, so what you're saying is it's impossible for water to drain from those parcels to the Norris Run main, to the proposed improvement area?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, how many acres does that represent?
In that acreage, I've got 111 acres that drain to the north.
Okay, so in your opinion, these 111 acres can't possibly be benefited in any way by the proposed improvement for the Norris Run main?
They can't. They've been, all the tiles where they were originally hooked up to run into the Norris Run have been cut and go the other direction. And parcels 1 and 2, in order to get down there, they can't get there.
Okay, and just for clarification on this map, what is the yellow lines, the highlighting around these parcels?
The yellow lines highlight the parcels that are in the assessment that I own.
Okay. And the 39 acres at the western portion of parcel numbers 22 and 23, does the Norris Run main and Prue main address or affect any drainage there?
No, they don't. The Prue runs past there. Those acres are designed to drain into the Prue, but there hasn't been any improvement or any section that runs up to my property to actually pick up and do the drainage for those. So they are left out of this project.
Okay. So turning now to the parcels identified as number 5 and 6, how many acres do those parcels represent?
5 and 6, I have 82 acres in there that are supposed to drain down through the Wilson Run into Wilson Lab.
Okay, so will parcel number 5 and 6, will they be benefited in any way by the proposed improvement?
They will not, because you can see on the map there where the proposed improvement stops at the north end of parcel 34, and the Wilson lateral goes and stops at the top of parcel number 26. So this particular proposal doesn't address any of the drainage for my parcels up there.
So based on a consideration of the volume of water draining into the proposed improvement, do you believe the engineers accurately taken into account what portions of your property even drain into or could possibly be benefited by the proposed improvement?
No, I don't. In terms of all the, in terms of the assessments and the charges and stuff, they have not been taken into consideration.
Okay, so in a best-case scenario, imagining that all of the engineers' calculations regarding the benefits of increased crop yields, which we contest, are correct, how much of your property could be impacted by the proposed improvement?
Yeah, so the only parcels that any of this improvement touched for me would be parcels 34, 33 over on the east side, and parcels 12 and 14 that are on the far west side.
Okay. Do you think the proposed improvement will negatively affect your property?
assessed my properties versus the amount of improvement that I could possibly get, is not even gonna be in the ballpark. It's gonna increase the tax burden for all of the assessments. It's gonna increase the burden for annual maintenance, which I don't participate. And then there's gonna be, some damage just in terms of, putting this project together.
In terms of construction, the soils?
Yes.
Do you understand exactly how the improvement will affect your property?
That's a hard one to answer. I can't say that I understand exactly how the improvements are going to help.
Okay. Have you read the Ohio State University publication, Returns to Farm Drainage, that the county engineer references as justification for quantifying a benefit to your property?
Yes.
And I believe Mr. Watkins had entered that into evidence here as an exhibit. Do you agree with the conclusions the engineer has drawn?
Absolutely not. The study, the Ohio State study that they're quoting for the 46 bushel increase of corn and 14 bushel increase of beans is based off of a study that was done against plain untiled fields versus systematically tiled fields. The engineer is claiming that by replacing existing mains with new mains is going to give those sort of increase in yields as far as in terms of the payback. I understand what some of the farmers are saying, about some of the mains that are broken down. And clearly, if they have tiled fields and those mains start running, they're going to get some benefit from that. I can say for sure that on parcels 34 and 33 on the Wilson main, that I don't expect to get 1 bushel per acre increase of corn or beans from that, because we're talking about putting the same size main in. There's a 24-inch main that runs under the road right now. Replacing that with a 24-inch main isn't going to give me any more water drainage than I currently already have. It's not going to. It's not going to do anything in terms of that. So in terms of the Ohio State study and getting 46 bushels and 14 bushels of beans, that's not going to happen. The paybacks aren't there. It's going to cost me a lot of money, and I'm not going to get any returns for it. I'm obviously not going to get any returns. You couldn't even argue I'd get any returns for the parcels 5 and 6. The project doesn't even go there. So basically, you're telling me that I have to pay for all of this project out of parcels 34, 33, and 12, and 14, which is 151 acres, for a cost of I don't know what the total cost is, $300,000. It's not possible for me to get any kind of potential yields. It's not possible for me to get the kind of corn yields that would pay that back off of that acreage.
Okay, so for clarification, the OSU publication, the Returns to Farm Drainage, that's comparing completely untiled fields to systematically tiled fields, correct?
Correct. And these fields have mains in them already. Maybe some of them don't run as well as they should, but they already have mains in them. So you can't claim a 46 bushel acre of corns. It's not apples and apples.
Because your fields are already systematically tiled.
Some of my fields are systematically tiled. Some of my fields have all the mains that they're talking about replacing are already there, and there are some spot tile in there, but it's not systematically tiled.
Okay, so the number, the bushel per acre yield increase that the engineer is relying on is unrealistic in your opinion?
For the farms that I have, is totally unrealistic.
Okay. Have you been provided with any survey of the property that's to be taken from you for the installation of new mains or laterals?
No,
Have you been provided with a legal description of the property to be taken from you?
I have not.
Have you been provided with an appraisal of the land that's to be taken from you?
No,
So you don't know exactly what property is to be taken and used and constructed on or not, correct?
that's correct.
Do you believe that you're entitled to compensation for property that's taken from you for public benefit?
Yes, I do.
Have you received a good faith offer to compensate you for the property taken or any damage to the property?
I have not.
Have you received written notification of an intent to acquire your property?
I have not.
Are you aware of the total cost of the project?
Yes,
What is that?
somewhere around $1.5 million.
Okay, and about how much of that cost is being assessed to your property?
About $304,000.
Does the cost of the project justify the returns or benefits to your property?
It does not.
Okay. So what's your opinion on the pricing of the entire project as a whole?
Well, in terms of the assessments, if we just, I went out and got a bid to do the tile work for the Norris, for the Wilson Run and the Wilson Lateral, because obviously I have experience putting tile in, as I showed you in the parcels above there. I spent $500,000 putting tile into those fields up there. The $350,000 that's being proposed for the Wilson Run and the Wilson Lateral can be done. I have a bid for $150,000 to do that with a tile company that's they're a good tile company. They're a company that I used to do up there. For what I'm being assessed, I could pay for the whole I could pay for the whole Wilson Run myself for the amount that I'm being assessed for, that just for that side, that doesn't even go to my property. So, I have a problem with the pricing on the project for sure.
What's your opinion regarding the size of the lines to be installed pursuant to the proposed improvement?
Right, so if I just, to talk about the Wilson Run, we currently have a 24-inch tile that runs under Rackman Road to the south. The proposal is to go back in with another 24-inch tile, and as one of the gentlemen mentioned this for the project, these tiles were probably put in, maybe 100 years ago, I don't know, 50, 60, 100, however long ago. They were sized up to drain for the rains that were occurring back in those times and not in the kind of rains that are occurring in this time. There are, in this watershed that's going through there, depending on which numbers you look at, there's some place between 500 and 700 acres that's coming down through that tile. If you run any of the calculations, the current calculations, and use drainage coefficients of 3/4 of an inch versus what they were using back maybe 50 years ago, 3/8 of an inch, you need at least a 30-inch tile coming under that road in order to even drain all this property properly. So if you were going to do this project and you were going to do it right, you would definitely want to upsize that line to come through there so that it could drain. Right now, replacing a 24-inch line with a 24-inch line isn't going to give me any increased speed of water withdrawal coming off of there than what's already there. So I think that the line is, as proposed, is not large enough.
So in your opinion, what sections of the project should be completely abandoned and not move forward, even if some part of the improvement project is approved?
I think before I get to that, I think I'd like to talk about the drainage for the, I'd like to talk about the drainage on the Norris Run coming up. You know, I have the same problem there. At the top of the Norris Run, as it runs up into the pew, they're proposing to run a 36-inch tile up there. And with that tile, they're replacing two 24-inch tiles and a third tile that I don't know the size of, which used to be the tile that drained my sections 1, 2, and 23 and 24. They used to all drain and come down through there. They no longer do, but that tile is still there and still drains some of the property that's north of there. So you're talking about replacing two 24-inch tiles with a 36-inch tile, which just that alone, just with those two tiles, is only 12% bigger than the two 24s. Like I said, if you throw the other one in, it's actually smaller than what's existing, that was existing put in there before. So if you were going to spend a lot of money, you should at least upsize those tiles so that they can handle, especially the fellow that's systematically draining his tiles up, like we're up there in section 9 that talked first. If he wants to get his fields drained, you can't have restrictions downstream and expect that it's gonna drain in any kind of good fashion. So I don't think it's big enough to drain what's happening up there. And I would agree with some of the testimonies that the guy said before. I know that on, one of the reasons I didn't drain my fields south through the Norris Run is because it is having problems, it is not running well, and it's not doing a good job providing drainage to the tiles that are already in place up there. And yeah, so that would be my points over there. The same thing, even where you come together with the Hadley and the Prue, where they come in. You have an 18-inch tile, you've got like 30-inch tile coming into a 30. They're not the right size. It's just all choked up. Yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Okay. In your opinion, has the engineer met his burden in proving that the benefit of the proposed improvement exceeds the cost?
No, I don't think he's even come close. These costs are exceptionally high, and the improvements are based off of studies that were done on totally non-tiled land versus systematically tiled land. And that doesn't apply here. Doesn't apply to anybody's property that's up.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Can,
Do you have anything else, Brian?
yeah, I would like just to add in, but first off, I'm not against tiling. Like I said, I'm not against spending money to make improvements down here, but I am against being charged. The way this thing is calculated, and I understand there's some argument, but like I have less than 15% of that area that's in this watershed, and the proposal is to charge me for almost 20% of the charge because of my distance from the watershed, my distance from the watershed. But if you want to take the argument that, you know, we're all going to be able to pay for this because we're all going to get increased yields based off our farming stuff, well, then we all get the same increase. So charging me because I'm further away just kind of rubs me the wrong way. If like the Norris ditch there, everybody benefits from it equally if it's improved, which I'm not against approving the Norris ditch. I'm against what they're planning. The fellow that said do the Norris ditch first, and then because all these lines are there, you might see some better increase in yields just from doing the Norris ditch to get the downstream water out of the way. Some of the other stuff could be taken care of with, you know, some small improvements here and there. to spend $1.5 million to do all this giant shotgun project all at once, and then find out that the paybacks are 50 years or something, or not at all, seems like a bad way to go.
Okay. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
What did we mark that exhibit
CC.
as? CC. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak in opposition? Okay. Okay, state your name and address, please, for the record.
I am Donna Davis, 4115 Troy Road, Delaware, Ohio.
Okay. And do you know the parcel number or numbers on the map?
I have my parcel number. I think it's number 26 on the map. I don't know if they can
Sound right,
confirm
Brett?
that.
26.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me swear you in. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, you can proceed.
My statements here are going to be very brief compared to what we've had. However, I greatly appreciate the points that have been brought forward. I think they're very relevant. I am a landowner. I am not personally a farmer. I'm looking at this as strictly an expense to me. And when I look at that expense, I don't see how I would just absorb that. I would not. I'm going to look to increase my land rent to help me get reimbursed for a project like this. I too have many questions with regards to the cost and the plan, et cetera. In my particular parcel, in parcel number 26, it does have the Wilson lateral in there. It doesn't look like much on the map to me. I question the need for it. I too wonder if some of these other items could be resolved in looking at the greater Norris and getting those issues resolved and getting things opened up a bit. So that's where my mind is, and I believe that's all I wanted to say this afternoon. So I do not support the project.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good. Thank you. All right. Others? Anyone else want to speak in opposition? Okay. All right. If you could, again, we're recording. If you could state your name and address and.
Sure. I'm Connie Thomas. I live on 5811 Thomas Road, Radnor.
Okay. And do you know your parcel number or numbers?
112, 113, and 111.
Okay. Let me swear you in. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. Proceed.
Okay. All right. I just want to say thanks to Dan and Brett because they did come out and they went over stuff with me. I'm new to this, and I used to farm with my husband. Now my son is helping me farm, so I'm really brand new. This is 6 generations on this farm, so we're kind of proud of that. But the parcel number 112 continuously has surface flooding on it. And that started about the same time that GTE came in and put a cable down. Now, we had bumpy roads come in multiple times. He was a person that did all of the drainage for Radnor Township, very knowledgeable. He is deceased now. But he tried and tried and tried after that, and the blockage, he thought, came from when the cable went through, they cut one of the lines or plugged one of the lines or did something to it. I didn't quite understand what had happened. But I was just wondering, because my father-in-law and my husband both went and asked for help and to the township and the county, and they were told that nothing could be done. So I'm on the fence with it. I see the good of having the drainage. I see that it needs to, because my son works with an engineering company, and he said that the tile that they're proposing on Main is not large enough. I have to take his word for it. So I'm just asking, has anybody reached out to, I know GTE is no longer, but has anybody ever reached out to ask them to fix that problem? I don't know. I would like to have some kind of answers. This has been going on for decades. We'd like to have that surface water removed however it takes. I agree with Mr. Dobanovich. I think we need to take steps. Let's get the big ones done and see if it kind of helps with the drainage of the smaller ones. But again, I'm not an engineer. So I really thank you for your time, and everybody. Okay, Dan and Brett, thank you for your information. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak in opposition? All right, last call, speak in opposition. Anyone else? All right, I did have a couple questions for Brett, if you got a second. The property, the Myrmidon Farms and KAB Farms properties that, on that one drawing, you know, the blue lines that flow to the north, that, I mean, the watershed boundaries are still within the watershed.
Yes, surface
Correct.
water, in our opinion, would still drain off those properties to the Norris Run watershed. The landowner may have made a management decision to tile that ground. I have not seen plans. This would be the first time I've seen a sketch of that tile. They may have made the management decision because they felt like the outlet may have been better at a different watershed. Again, that's a management decision. Would be akin to a landowner deciding not to tile their ground, or to tile their ground, or to put these inputs in or those inputs in. Those are all individual management decisions. We base the watershed on surface drainage, and I think surface drainage clearly runs from, you know, those properties into the Norris Run watershed. And if they weren't, those properties, those portions of those properties would be being assessed for the Carter Ditch watershed. So they're either in one or the other. Our opinion is they're in the Norris Run watershed.
Okay. So these drawings are subsurface.
I've not actually seen the hand drawings on those. It looks like a map that we met with each or tried to make some outreach to some of the landowners prior to the letters going out for the final hearing. I prepared maps showing those landowners which of their parcels were affected, provided them to them. Can I see that map?
Sure.
It's not. Yeah, so it looks like Mr. B now has indicated where he installed tile. Again, that's the first I've seen that. We've not been provided any kind of engineering.
You can't verify that then, but it is possible that he created subsurface tile that would drain to a different watershed.
Yes, subsurface, yes, surface, no.
Okay.
Unless there was some land regrading, that would be the only way you
Yeah,
follow
and
the surface
that's what I want to
watershed.
verify too, is all the parcels are within this watershed.
Correct.
That we're discussing.
Yes.
So by just changing the elevation of the tile, you could direct it some other direction.
Yeah, this watershed is extremely flat. You know, a lot of times when we see, you know, the peak of a watershed being much higher than lands down below, it's just impossible to tile out of a watershed because of depth and grade, getting grade to the outlet. This is a very flat watershed, so it is possible that ground was tiled from one to the other, especially right near the break.
Okay.
We've heard a lot of testimony today. Is there anything in the testimony you've heard today that would change your view or perspective on this project?
No, I think we have been presented with a petition request. Our responsibility is to come up with a proposal that meets that request. We feel that we have. I will speak to, there's been some question about tile size and engineering design. We utilize specifications from the Natural Resources Conservation Service in designing the size of the tile. For this case, we used a 1/2-inch drainage coefficient. And tile design is, first of all, tile capacity is not strictly determined by tile size. The type of material that you're installing plays a big part in the capacity of a tile, and certainly our modern smooth interior polyethylene tile, it runs water much more efficiently than those old clay tile. So, you can get more capacity from a 24-inch smooth interior plastic tile than you can a 24-inch clay. Grade of the tile plays a lot into it. As far as tile capacity, that's the standards that we fall back on and the engineering principles that we use. The other thing I will say is there was some mention as far as rainfall amounts and factoring rainfall amounts into the tile design. Well, rainfall amounts certainly are a factor in designing the capacity of our surface drainage features. The tile design is really affected not by rainfall, but by how quickly water can percolate through the soil. And for the soils that we have, and especially in the area of the Norris Run proposed project, really the NRCS specifications would suggest something between a 3/8 drainage coefficient and a 1/2-inch drainage coefficient is about the maximum that you're going to achieve. And that's strictly based on the speed at which the water can percolate through the soil. To use a drainage coefficient and to size tile for more than that is really just a benefit that would not be derived because the water just simply can't get through the tile or through the soil fast enough.
If I understood the testimony correctly, it was at least implied that this particular homeowner or this farmer on these properties could do it cheaper. If I understood the comments correctly, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I would love for the Mr. Beanhouse contractor to submit a bid if the project's approved. Certainly we want to build the project for as cheap as we can. We have to estimate it responsibly, and like I stated at the beginning in my presentation, we base our estimate on real world numbers, on work estimates that we receive for our drainage maintenance program and on actual other petition project bids. Certainly if a contractor feels that they can perform the work at less expense to the landowners, we encourage and welcome that.
And that would be reflected to all the landowners if in fact that occurred?
Yes. Again, these projects it is a competitive and open bid process, and lowest and best bid is awarded the contract.
Okay. Other questions? Okay. All right, thank you, Brett. This is a really difficult one.
Commissioner Benton, do you wish to close the public hearing?
What? I'm sorry, yeah.
You need to address the exception to the assessments during the final hearing.
The exceptions to the assessment.
Yeah, there was
the letter.
We accepted from Myrmidon Farms and KAB Farms for consideration, the exception to the assessments. So that does need to be addressed in one way or another.
We did not do that with the original resolution?
You just accepted it for consideration.
Oh, that's right, okay.
Commissioner Benton, I do have a recommendation from the engineer to read on that.
Okay.
ORC 6131.17 requires an exception to the engineer's proposed schedule of assessments to include the nature of the exception, the amount claimed, if any, and the identity of the property. Referencing item number 4, the owner appears to be objecting to any assessment against the listed properties for the Norris Run Drainage Improvement Project, and thus is requesting the assessment for these properties to be set to 0. These properties clearly lie within the watershed area for the Norris Run project and per the definition of ORC 6131.01, shall be considered as benefited by the improvements required to dispose of the accelerated flow of water from the uplands. Our recommendation is to deny the exception to the schedule of assessments and the request to set the assessments for these properties to $0 based on these considerations.
Okay, so the engineer's recommendation is to deny the exceptions.
If the request is to set the assessments to 0, our recommendation is to deny the exception.
Okay, just want to make sure I understood.
So you need a motion to that effect?
Well, I think that we should hear from the owner. You know, this is a pretty vaguely stated exception. And I think we need to hear from them on each of these points that pertain to the exception.
Okay.
Before you can make a decision.
Okay. I don't know if the attorneys want to speak, or the owner, Mr. Benow?
I'll speak.
Okay, Brad. Was this number 4 is this number 4 he was talking about as a vague exception?
I think any one of the paragraphs that you have numbered in your exception that pertain to the exception to assessments.
Right.
You could speak on those. This is the time.
Okay. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, so, according to the Ohio Drainage Law's petition procedures, the factors that are relevant and whether advantages result in the total volume of water draining into or through improvement and the amount of water contributed by each parcel. So I'm gonna argue that my parcels up there that aren't draining through are not contributing to it. Parcels 1 and 2, they can't get into the Norris ditch up there north of Radnor Road because they'd have to jump over the road to get there. So those parcels don't even remotely, they just can't even get there. So I would say those are 0. Parcels 5 and 6, there's nothing that you've done to this, that you're proposing here that is gonna drain one more drop of water through any of this downstream. So these improvements, they don't do anything. The swale that you're putting in doesn't drain any surface water from those parcels. And basically, I'm blocked out from ever doing anything in the future with them because I can't get to the improvements that you're suggesting because I can't get across the neighbor's farm unless he lets me. But if I ever want to try to drain those, I can't drain. So effectively, I'm locked out from even doing anything with this proposal. So I would say those are 0. Out of 613115, the chapter 6131, it says that single county drainage improvement says calculating each estimate and assessment to the county engineer shall do both the following: use the information compiled in accordance with divisions of section 6131 of the relevant code. But you have to consider the following factors: the volume of water produced by a parcel. The volume of water that's produced by these parcels 1 and 2 is 0. The volume of water produced by 5 and 6, no different than what's happening before you're doing. It's already draining through a 24-inch spout. I'm not contributing any more water. There's nothing happening. There's no surface water getting there any faster than what's happened before. There's no swale headed that direction. Same with my parcels 22. It's not 22 and 23 that are on the west section. They're not even hooked up. I can't even hook them up. So there's no water that's going to contribute any more than what's already happening today. So all of these improvements that are being made, they don't affect my parcels. It says part of it in the 6131. It says that the percentage of the improvement used by the parcel. What percentage of this improvements am I getting to use by these parcels that are not even addressed by this plan? I'm getting 0% benefit from them. The works is determined to benefit a particular parcel only and not the remainder of the parcels in the watershed. The engineer was supposed to take that into consideration, that they're considered that works for some parcels and not for others. This is clearly the case. I have many parcels in here that are not being benefited relative to other ones. It says in 6131, it says the engineer should take into account existing drainage infrastructure that can be incorporated in the improvement and associated cost savings. The parts that I'm draining away, they're already there. They're not part of this watershed. They're in the watershed, but they're not draining in the watershed. So I don't think that assessing the cost of that is even reasonable. And again, I don't think the idea that the particular parcels that are actually being drained by this are being drained any better than any of the other parcels, and to charge extra because how far they are away from something as opposed to, we're all benefiting on a per acre basis as a percentage. I object to that too.
Okay, I can address some of the points here in the exception.
I would like to say one more thing too. When Brett was talking about the flows, and he's saying they're using a 1/2-inch drainage coefficient, and I can plug 1/2-inch drainage coefficients into here with the acreage stuff, and I'm still getting a 30-inch tile needs to come under Radnor Road. In addition, a lot of people are still using 3/4-inch drainage instead of a 1/2-inch. And nobody's saying about new tile's going to flow a little better than the old tile, but that works just fine until somebody puts a surface drain in one of the holes up there, and then we're not talking about percolation rates of the along the soil in the ground. We're talking about needing to get rid of some rainwater. So I'm still suggesting these tiles are all well undersized. That's all I got.
Okay.
And I'll add to that. On the owner's objections to improvement and exceptions to assessment and compensation, point number one, the owner is objecting based on the procedure not being compliant with the eminent domain takings statute, revised code 163.01 et sequitur. Point number two, the owner objects.
Could we stop on that one right there? Commissioners, this is a proceeding under 6131. There is only one reference in Chapter 6131 to the appropriation proceedings, and like a lot of public projects, if the project is approved, you may at that point need to appropriate property for it. But until the project is actually approved, those procedures do not apply.
Well, if I could address that, pursuant to 163, to the eminent domain proceedings, you would have a survey of the land being taken as per, that appears on my client's property. And we have no survey, we have no legal description, we don't have an appraisal. And so earlier, we were not considering the damages, but listed in these objections is the argument that we can't even assess damages because we don't even really know how many acres are being taken or used. We don't know what terms of an easement might be there, what damage to the residue might result, the inability to develop the property for easements running through the center of the property.
So these plans were available at some date. Brett, I don't know what date that was, but we know that you didn't ask for them until after this document was submitted. So you're talking really about two different things. One is you did have the ability to find out what the extent of those easements were, at least where the locations were, but you didn't even ask for the copy of the plans, even though they were publicly available on the website.
Well, who carries the burden then in an eminent domain taking on?
This is not an eminent domain
property?
taking.
Okay.
This is a project that has not even reached final approval yet.
But
So
it will
until
be a-
there's a project that has final approval, there is no need for any type of eminent domain proceedings.
But for clarification, this is a public improvement for the benefit of
That has
the
not
public.
even been approved yet.
That would appear on private property, that would be constructed on private property.
The project has not even gotten final approval yet.
Right, okay. Point number two, the owner objects on the basis that this proceeding is not followed. the procedure set forth in revised code 6131.01 et cetera. As we pointed out earlier, the engineer, county engineer is not available for questioning. We're not able to question any specifics in regards to the cost-benefit analysis, specifically the benefit analysis that's based on a 1.5-page OSU publication that is, we would argue, insufficient to support a justification for a $300,000 plus assessment to my client. And I believe my client spoke to the issues in point 3, that the basis of the cost of proposed improvement will be greater than the benefits conferred by its construction. On point number 4, for clarification, in terms of zero assessment that my client is arguing should be accepted, is the parcel numbers 1, 2, 22, 23, and 25 that has the drainage to the north, as well as parcels number 5 and 6. So he has indicated that there may be some benefit derived to parcel number 12 and 14 and parcel 33 and 34. So he wasn't arguing against the Norris main or that some benefit might be attributable to those 4 parcels of his. What he's arguing is the engineer has not carried the burden, has not met his burden in proving a benefit to the property, or that benefit exceeds the costs.
So I'm going to interject one more time to advise the commissioners that this is, I think, the second or maybe third time that the engineer's burden has been brought up. The engineer does not have a burden of proof in these proceedings. The engineer has statutory responsibility. Note the objection that the engineer has not met some of those requirements. I think that's the argument, at least in part. But the engineer does not have a burden. The engineer prepares a report and makes recommendations to your board.
In regards to point 6, we covered this in detail, that the drainage of the water on those parcels flows to the north and not to the south, not to the Norris Run ditch. Point number 7 is related to the parcels that should be excluded and accepted from assessment as they don't derive a benefit. Nine, 10 relates to an eminent domain taking that, again, we would argue is impossible to tell what the damage is at this point in time. Number 12, the owner objects on the basis the engineer has failed to provide evidence that crop yields for the property will increase as a result of the proposed improvement, thereby providing a benefit to the owner. Again, the report, the OSU report, is inadequate, as addressed in point number 13. Number 14, the owner objects to the improvement because the owner was not provided with an opportunity to be heard when the county commissioners viewed the site of the improvement. It's my understanding, and Brian can chime in if he disagrees, that he was not a part of the original petition, so he really didn't become a part of this process until he found out more recently the amounts that were going to be assessed to him and the benefits that were being attributed to his property. Brian, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And point number 15, we withdraw our exception based on an inability to be heard at this hearing.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian.
Commissioners, Rob Riley, Chief Deputy Engineer. You've heard some testimony regarding the direction of the tiling on the property owner's property. That is something we're willing to explore in more detail, in particular how it relates to the adjacent improvement. I think it's worth certainly determining what we feel is accurate based on the testimony. I will say to the testimony that's already been offered, I think the owner perhaps has already acknowledged or agreed that the surface drainage is what we delineate on this project. Hopefully that's been made clear. Absent an in-depth investigation or review of some plans that are on file, we would need to look into this issue further to determine exactly where those tiles flow. With that said, once this improvement is done within the drainage boundary that's delineated, whether or not the property owner would be able to tie into the property, tie into the improvement, that's something we, I think, would want to investigate because that certainly speaks to the potential of benefit for the property. So at your pleasure, we would certainly entertain a continuance of the hearing to look into that in more detail. If you so desire of us, we'll do that. But I would also speak to the yield estimates relative to the OSU publication. I think it's been said a number of times. You've heard testimony by both property owners who have generally agreed that there would be a yield benefit or a yield increase. You've heard at least one property owner testify that there would be no yield increase. I would repeat, the figures obtained from that publication are, I would say, for the guidance of your board, is not based on a detailed investigation of each and every property. That is not within the scope of the work we perform. In our opinion, this forum provides the ability for each and every property owner to testify based on their own experience and their own knowledge of their own property. The very best, it provides the very best mechanism for you to consider that. And so the reason we provide that is for some basis to consider based on averages, again, but each property owner's experience may be different. We acknowledge and recognize that. So I wanted to make sure that was very clear. Again.
So are you suggesting a continuance to a future date?
That would be up to your board. I know you have the matter of this exception to the exception which you need to rule on. My understanding from council is that would need to be ruled on during the hearing. So if you're prepared to do that, I certainly have no objection. If you're not prepared to do that, I believe it's in your authority, your discretion to continue the hearing to a later date where we could further look into the issue of the tile. You've heard about the matter of the taking, the appropriation or the eminent domain taking. I believe you've heard from council where kind of how the procedure is in that matter. So I won't repeat that, but again, it's up to your discretion.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. So the letter with the exceptions, do we have to rule on that now?
You have to rule on it during the hearing. If you want to continue it to allow the Soil and Water and Engineer's Office to explore this issue that would bear on that decision, I think that makes sense. And you would also have the opportunity to have further consideration of the arguments made in the testimony you received today on how you decide whether to approve an exception to the assessments or to deny the request.
Can we limit future testimony to the issues at hand?
Yeah, you can, but if ultimately you, let's run a scenario. Let's say that you continue it to get more information. More information is provided when the hearing reconvenes, and let's say you grant the exception. That means you will then need to continue it again to have new schedules prepared, distributed, and then you would have a new hearing. And not a new hearing, but another continuation of the hearing where you have new assessments, and that could change people's opinion. because their assessments would change.
Right.
So I never want to say you could limit a testimony, because there could be a change of facts and circumstances that could bear on somebody being in favor at one and opposed, and you switch when you get new information. So we've been down that road before on a couple of hearings where we've continued it.
Thank you. You answered my question, for sure.
Okay. The exceptions, again, Eric, the engineer's recommendation was to deny the exceptions. True?
If the requested amount of the assessment is zero, so basically, if the request is to have no assessment on the properties that are named in the letter received, then our recommendation is zero, based on the fact that surface water still drains into the Norris Run watershed. There was no other amount presented to us for consideration.
Okay, okay. Well, I don't think, I mean, clearly some of those parcels that are being debated are in the watershed and contributing water to the drainage problem. So, I mean, I can't support a zero, assessment. Just, again, the whole principle is you're in the watershed, you're contributing water, all the water contributes to the problem. So, so if we denied the exception, then we could conceivably still continue the hearing, because this is a very complex situation. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. You could also make that decision and just continue the hearing for purposes of further consideration before you make any decisions. That's up to you. You don't have to make a decision today.
For the exceptions, or the?
Either.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think what you're saying, additional information might be helpful in us making our evaluation.
I don't see how it hurts. This has been a pretty lengthy hearing, a lot of detail. We don't normally get objection letters with 15 numbered items. If you want more time to consider your decision, that is perfectly fine, and that's up to you. If you think you have sufficient information to rule on that, you could do that today. You could then continue on to address all of the approval items that are before you, or you could continue for that purpose. I mean, it's entirely up to you.
Again, this is unique. This is extremely unique. Let me make sure I understand. The objection letter, the exception letter that we received, the basis is that the position is that there should be no assessment to any of the parcels that landowner has. Am I reading that correctly?
As I heard it, yes, but you would need to direct that to the property owner to make sure. I mean, that if there's some question as to whether you understand what the claim is, I mean,
okay,
ask them. I don't want to speak for them.
Yeah, to be clear, parcel number 1, 2, 23, 25, and 5 and 6. Those would be the parcels that our client is requesting zero assessment, that they don't drain surface water or not. One of the considerations in the Ohio Revised Code is the volume of water. It's not just whether or not it's in a watershed or out of a watershed, it's how much volume of water. So, our position is that the volume of water is negligible and does not meet the amount being assessed, as a factor. So, just for clarification on the.
Okay.
On the.
Okay. Yeah, I misspoke. I didn't really mean all the parcels
Right,
that the
right.
landowner has. I meant the ones that were being discussed.
Right, okay.
Okay. The whole principle behind 6131, or the ditch petition process, is that everybody in the watershed contributes water and therefore should bear some share of the cost of fixing it. So I guess I'm in a position to deny the exception. So, I don't know, Commissioner
I'm
Merrill.
good, I can support that.
Resolution number 23-390, in the matter of denying the exception to the schedule of the assessments filed on behalf of Meriden Farms LLC and KAB Farms LLC for the Norris Run Watershed Drainage Improvement Project. Motion by Commissioner Benton, seconded by Commissioner Merrill.
Correct.
Okay. All right, further discussion? Okay, vote please.
Vote on motion 23-390. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye. Okay, now, so we've addressed the exception letter. This project is just extremely complex, and there's a whole bunch of testimony today that I've received that, I guess my main conclusion is, I don't think $1.5 million is, again, because it's 8 projects, I don't think $1.5 million total cost exceeds the benefits, or the benefits exceed the total cost. I don't think that, but exactly which ones, I mean, the Norris Main, I think probably does, but the others,
Well, I thought I heard Representative of the County Engineer's Office ask for a continuance.
yeah, and that's where I am.
I think, I don't have a comment on that, but I do think we ought to entertain the idea of continuing it to a future date to allow for that. I don't know if you have a time in mind, or did I misunderstand?
Well, I'll let them speak to it. I thought that was for additional information if you thought it was necessary to make a determination on the exception. But if you've already ruled on the exception, the only matters left for you to decide are whether to grant each of the segments of the project or not.
The only thing I would add into that, if you are requesting additional information be generated, I would just ask you to be specific with us for what you're looking for, so we know what to return to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Again, I don't think the $1.5 million, I guess that's where I am, Eric, is I don't know enough about each of the 8 individual projects to know which ones meet all 3 thresholds.
You always have the ability to continue and consider before you make your decision. You do not have to make those decisions today.
Yeah.
And my view is, I may disagree with Commissioner Benton on that topic, but I do think there's value in having more information. It can't hurt, to coin a phrase. I think it does meet the criteria, but I also understand other information may, so I think we perhaps should continue to a future date.
I'm confused as to the additional information part. What additional information are you seeking? Because if you are wanting additional information, it needs to be introduced as testimony, either from the engineer, soil and water, or property owner. What additional information?
I think it meets the criteria, so it would not be my question, be Commissioner Benton.
I sit back and say there's $1.564 million being proposed to spend on these 8 projects. I just don't think and it's vast majority is agricultural. Given that some of the agriculture is doing fine, some of it really needs these improvements. And you have estimates within the report that says, okay, here's the cost estimate for the project, and here's the annual benefit. Some of them are very easy to say, yes, that should work. Some of them are not easy to say they should work. And again, so anyway, that's my hesitation.
Let's have Brett come back after I'll ask a question that may or may not provide some clarity. Brett, you've heard all the testimony and you've heard all the conversation and comments. Is there anything here that would, in your mind, suggest that some of these should not be included in the project?
I have not heard anything that changes my opinion as far as, I think the overwhelming years of research on the benefits of having good drainage related to agricultural yields are there. You know, it's not only Ohio State, it's pretty much every land grant university in the Midwest has research that supports the benefits of good agricultural drainage. Whether the time is now, I understand this is a very expensive project. Whether the time is now to do this project, I don't, that's up to each individual landowner to make that evaluation for their own farm, their own business, their own family situations. Everybody's situation is different. I think clearly the research supports that the benefits of drainage are there. I think we've proposed a project that meets the request that we were asked to do. Obviously, I think over time, my opinion, these projects will utilize or see the benefits realized. Now, for some, that may be 10 years. For some, it may be 30 years. Others, it may be 50 years. I don't know. There's a lot of individual farm management considerations there for each landowner to take full advantage of the drainage. Over time, I think the benefits will exceed the cost. But, again, the testimony of the landowners needs to be weighed heavily.
Yes, again, Rob Riley, you heard testimony specifically from relating to the Myrmidon and KAB Farms parcels. Again, I think if it's useful to the board in considering the portions of the improvement that specifically relate to the parcels that were raised, we are willing to look at any additional evidence that the owner may have relating to the tiling of that. I think all we saw today was basically a hand sketch of what it looks like or what they think the tile pattern is. We're certainly willing to review any further evidence and report back to you at a later date. If you would like to continue the hearing, I don't know that we're able to do that with any certainty today, just based on what we've received or what we've been made aware of. Again, relative to our opinion of the project overall, I think as I stand here today, we are of the same opinion as our report that the benefits do exceed the cost. But in fairness to the property owners that have raised objection, I think it is important to understand what they're saying relative to tile drainage, perhaps not being able to get to the improvement. And so there's a twofold response to that. First, as how it relates to this project, this matter before your board, but also what the potential outcome of that would be if it is indeed draining to another project. So I think, frankly, it's been said, and I'll repeat it, more information probably isn't a bad thing. A couple of you have made that statement. We're certainly willing to review anything the property owners would like to submit. Obviously, the testimony you've heard today has been both for and against the project. I can appreciate the benefit or the burden on your board, and this is a difficult decision.
So I'm going to summarize what I believe I just heard. That is that you think there's value in continuing to a date to be determined?
I think if I were in your shoes, I would rather have more information, because what was presented today, particular to those two, or to the Myrmidon and the other farm, I haven't heard enough today to be certain either way. So yes.
So,
we can actually show a picture of the tile pattern of if we want to enter another exhibit that shows some of the tiling and the pattern of it.
well, I don't think we're going to decide that today.
Well,
I think.
for consideration,
Well,
you can now.
let us do our job, then you can do
Okay.
that.
We'd be happy to review that again. Thank you.
My only comment is this project started in 2016 or 17. I would prefer that we identify, we at least have the challenge that we're going to do it in a reasonable time period. And to me, that would be in 60, 90 days. Is that time frame enough?
So based on what we've what's already been presented. I think what I would propose would be to limit the scope of this analysis to the tile patterns. I think we already have enough data to support the surface drainage. I would think 30 to 60 days would be enough to review if there is some sort of plan work or aerial photography or imagery showing the pattern of those tiles. So I agree with you, Commissioner. I don't think any of us want to prolong this study or prolong this process any further than absolutely needed.
So I guess I'd like, if we're going to continue, I'd like to consider it a specific date, just so we do have, we don't get in a situation that we're continuing indefinitely, for the benefit of all the landowners. Are you comfortable with that, Mr. Benton?
Yeah, again, I just have, I would like more information in specific these projects.
So can we identify a date now? Then?
Commissioner Benton.
Yep.
Just with regards to the statement you just made, when you say more information beyond what Deputy Engineer Riley spoke to, what information are you looking for the other parts of the project?
Again, I have questions about, there are 8 different projects here. It's not just one project. There are 8 different projects. And the Prue Section 1, for instance, costs $367,000, and by your estimate, it creates $50,000 a year in benefits. I don't think that's a good.
So I think that's information you need the landowners to provide you. I don't think getting down to farm-specific yields, that's not information that we can generate.
Right.
That's up to the landowners to provide that testimony.
Right.
Would you agree, Robert?
I would agree with that. And I don't want to restate what I've already stated. We're using averages. And so
I know.
the explanation or the example obviously is based on averages. I would just repeat, I think what we're talking about would be limited in scope, reviewing the parcels that were in question relating to the tiling. I don't propose to do any more extensive analysis of any of the rest of the project. And I would weigh heavily the testimony that you've heard today relating to the property owners, both for and against. You heard a number of property owners speak for and a few against as well. So.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but generally on these projects, there's always obviously differences. It's more on how it affects the whole watershed, not just a particular parcel here or a particular parcel there. At least that's been my perspective. Commissioner Benton, I would.
Yeah, well, the question I have is, we just did this, the Lynetta Lane project, and there we had, very expensive ditches to fix in the northern part, but the southern part, which was really causing the clogging, was the easy thing to fix, and it probably will fix the northern part. So we approved the southern part, but not the northern part. And we may have that situation here. I just don't understand it well enough, quite honestly. I think that Norris Main looks like it needs to be done. But all the others, it's just it's a web. I just don't understand it well enough.
Yes, Commissioner, I understand your statement. I think that is, this project is typical of most agricultural drainage projects in that when you get to the top of the watershed, the amount of work can have more branches and fewer property owners paying for those branches. And so the cost per property at the top end of the watershed naturally will increase. Just because of the nature of what's being done. The main itself, the bottom end of the project, has both a more defined line, a single line, as well as more property owners paying into it. So naturally, there's some built-in economy for the bottom end of the project versus the top end of the project. It's well within your ability, as you know, to approve part of this project. And it would be within the ability of petitioners, if you don't approve the entire project, to come back and re-petition those upper projects.
But that means you start all over.
Well, I would To that point, Commissioner, I would say the engineering doesn't necessarily start over. We've conducted a great deal of work in engineering to do engineering on the top end. That is not wasted. Those projects, the plans go in the file. But if it's your decision to do part of the project and not all of it.
Well, my view, and Commissioner Benton may or may not agree, I think, I have enough information to vote for all of them today. Commissioner Benton feels that there's not enough information on some of the areas, so I don't think we're in a position to vote on it today. And you said 30 to 60 days. I split the difference and look for a date about 45 days out, somewhere in that range.
Would I have clarification on what kind of notice is needed? Is it just the continuation resolution from today, or we?
Yeah, it's just the resolution resetting the continued date. No additional individual notices need to go out, that's right.
Why is she trying to find a date? Which is probably a challenge, right, Jennifer?
Commissioner Lewis isn't even here.
July is not good, so we're looking at August.
Just because of schedules?
Yes. So how about Monday, August 14th?
I am not available on the 14th,
I'm
unfortunately.
sorry?
I am not available on the 14th, but I can
We
speak,
could
if
go
that works
to
for everyone else, I can
what-
speak with Mr.
No,
Ball.
it does not have to be on a Monday or Thursday. We could
What-
do it on a different day if that would make it
Monday,
more.
August 7th?
7th of what?
Monday, August 7th? August 7th?
Okay, with me.
That's 90 days out. I thought we were going to try to get something a little quicker than that, but August 7th, you said?
Yes.
That's good for me. I guess I was hoping to get resolution of this a little faster than that, but if that's, is 7th a good day for you?
That works for me.
Okay. So Eric, what do we need to do from a resolution standpoint?
Yes. Resolution number 23-3901. Or 391, I'm sorry. Resolution number 23-391. In the matter of continuing the public hearing to address the Norris Run Watershed Drainage Improvement Project to Monday, August 7th.
So moved.
Second,
We
discussion.
need a time. We need to make sure that at
Oh,
10.
time.
10
I'm
a.m.
good after early afternoon like we did this one, whatever works.
We'll
Yeah.
do 10 a.m.
Maybe we'll do it in the early afternoon.
Yeah, we can do it after.
Okay,
regular session.
1:30.
1:30, okay, we'll do it 1:30.
Is motioned by, I need a motion?
I made the motion.
Second.
Merrill, Benton. Vote on motion 23-391 in the matter of continuing the public hearing to address the Norris Run Watershed Drainage Improvement Petition to Monday, August 7th at 1:30 PM. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Merrill?
Okay. So we have continued that hearing. We obviously don't want to close it. Anything else? We just end the session for today then?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Commissioner, can I speak for just one moment?
Well,